Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of the Rambling Film Group podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Whether you are listening, watching, whatever way you're getting it, we're just grateful for you taking some time out your day to join us. Today is going to be a news episode. We're going over a few shorter than usual. But a few pretty noteworthy stories from the last, not even full week. I want to say, I want to say a bunch of these days came out on this past Thursday, and it's Monday evening. So we're gonna jump right into it pretty quick here. But before we get into it, I want to make sure, in case you're listening or watching for the first time, want to make sure you know who we are. I'm Charles. Next to me, we have Kelsey.
Hi guys.
Remotely, as always, we have Sai with us.
Hey everybody.
And we introduced him last week when we did a horror special. So go ahead and look for that if you haven't already seen or heard it. But we're having a new addition to the RFG team here, and also remotely because everybody lives apart. We have Daniel with us as well.
Hey everybody. Oh, down right here. There we go.
Yeah, it's no worries. I move my hands all the time, as they know. And my hands, sometimes they're not on screen. It's all over the place. So yeah.
Or he shakes the thing.
That happens
so
too.
Much, and it's
I can't help it. I try not to. I can't help it. But,
no self-control.
Yeah, no. It's just they just. Without further ado, like I said, we're just gonna jump right into it this week. And the first and honestly, probably most
What?
and head scratching and not sure how I feel about story is that it's officially confirmed that there is a planned Gladiator sequel coming from Ridley Scott, and it looks like the Top Gun 2 writer. So we know nothing of what Top Gun 2 is going to be just yet, but that screenwriter is going to be pinning the screenplay. So. Thoughts from everybody?
I hate this. You guys know how I feel. You guys know how I feel about doing sequels of things that are over 10 years old. I hate it. It makes no sense. It would have made more sense if they're we're going to reboot or reimagine, remake. Fine, whatever. But why the hell are we getting sequels to these? Why is there a Top Gun 2 sequel? We've already talked about this, but I still don't get it. I love Top Gun. Why is there a sequel coming out now? I don't know.
Because there's money to be made.
Why is there a sequel for the Gladiator movie? When did that movie come out?
2000, I want to say.
Almost 20 years ago. By the time it comes out, pretty damn close to 20 years. So why are we doing this? It pisses me off. I don't understand. But I say this every time something like this happens. It's the same thing.
I don't know. Well, I think even with remakes, if you're going to do a remake or a reboot of something, I think if you're going to make a remake, it has to be at least more than 20 years old. Don't make a remake of a movie that's less than 20 years old. It's not that old. It didn't work out the first time. I get you guys are trying to make it work again, but give it some time. Give us a break from these reboots of things that came out less than 20 years ago.
What's
it's
Pirates. I was about to say, Disney's doing with Pirates.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's come on, man. It's when they did the reboot for Clash of the Titans. I was okay, that movie came out late 80s or early 80s ish. That's fine. It's been 30 years. All right, whatever. But yeah. But no, to be completely honest, for Gladiator, I don't remember the movie that well. I mean, I watched it when it first came out, and I remember really, really liking it. The whole "Are you not entertained?" It's that's the one that sticks out to me the most. But it's I'm gonna have to go back and watch it, so then I can see and say, wait a minute, why are we making a sequel to this? Because I'm sure I'm gonna agree with you. I'm sure
it's really hard to try to comprehend why, and even more importantly, what story there is to tell at this point.
Because if I'm not mistaken, both of kind of the main characters die in the original, right?
They do die.
Because that's where my thing is. It's like, where do you... Granted, I'm not a fan of Gladiator. There are multiple reasons as to why I'm not a fan. But from what I remember, both of them die. So for there to be a Gladiator 2, what story, what point is there for there to be a continuation? Unlike Daniel, I will say, like, remakes, I would say about a decade after the original, like, I'm okay with that. 20 years. 20 years is, like, perfect. But 10, I'm okay with that. But at this point, I just don't get why Gladiator 2 is necessary and what in the world kind of story you're even going to tell me at that point.
It's going to be the vengeful son.
That's been done like 100 million times.
Son's dead.
His family's dead.
Everybody's dead.
Shit. I don't even remember that.
That's kind of what starts the whole thing. He's out like in battle, and then his family's killed.
And then he goes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, okay, fine. The vengeful bastard son.
What?
Well, I guess you could go with like sometime after that's happened, he hooked up with somebody at some point.
But what difference does it make if he dies if the guy's dead anyway? If Dad's already dead, so it's not like he's gonna know.
So I'm gonna say, I don't think this was a rumor. I think this was a confirmed like plot that had been tossed around.
Oh, good lord.
Like, because I feel like this has actually come up before, and I think this was the storyline that Ridley had been thinking about. So I'm prayerful that this isn't what's being considered.
It's not? Okay,
I'm
well,
hopeful
tell it.
But basically, the setup was that, why can't I think of the actor's name? Russell Crowe's character was,
a zombie.
He basically, what?
Nothing. Just keep going.
What'd you say?
I said a zombie. So I was definitely joking.
Zombie.
Not
Zombie Gladiator.
Not quite.
So I guess what they're doing with the plot, I was reading up on it a little bit, was that it's picking up from the story of Lucius, the son of Lucilla. It's the boy he saves.
Okay.
And I guess that's where they're picking that's what they're picking up the story from that person's side of the event, and I guess it picks up from him and on.
Okay, well, that's potentially far more sensible and makes reasonable, because what I think the original kind of like years ago when they were kind of playing around with it, I think somebody actually wrote this script, was that basically Russell Crowe's character gets reincarnated over and over again throughout history.
Oh, it's like Assassin's Creed.
Fights. He's just like a soldier in all these major wars.
You know, I think I would rather see that.
That wasn't too far off with the whole zombie thing.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, not quite, but some sort of play.
You can throw some fantasy sci-fi into Gladiator. I'll be all right with it.
I will not. I will lose my mind.
Aliens. At the end of it, aliens.
That's the last war that he comes back for. The world that the war that unites the world, and he's the major general in it.
Well, and I mean, Ridley Scott's. I mean, he did Blade Runner 2049 too, right?
No, that wasn't him. He produced it,
but he didn't.
But he didn't direct it.
Okay.
And he probably didn't even really produce it. He probably just got his name on it, so that way they're keeping it continuous. So
and was like had a meeting with Denis Villeneuve, and is like, you know what? I'm cool with that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Pete.
You know which one he did? He did Alien Covenant. That's the one he did, right? Yeah. Alien Covenant. Yeah, that's what it was. Because I know, I know he's done sequels before. I was just trying to think of like which sequels were prominent.
Prometheus was the first sequel to Alien. That was the first time he touched Alien again after the original.
Oh, I really like Prometheus too.
Yeah, we're all really big fans of Prometheus.
Really?
All pretty let down by Alien Covenant.
I hated Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
He
I haven't seen Alien Covenant
with me. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, if you loved Prometheus, it doesn't like follow up really what you were hoping to see.
Anyway, yeah. So overall, I don't think anybody's dying for a Gladiator 2. I don't know if anybody was dying for a Gladiator 2 when it came out almost 20 years ago. But here we are, we're getting it now.
So, Ewan McGregor, I never know if I say his name right.
Ewan
as Kelsey. Ewan. Basically,
anyway,
still a different
Mr. McGregor.
Mr. McGregor, not Connor, is in her Black Mask in Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey, entirely different film. And also, weirdly enough, I feel like Conor McGregor would be an interesting choice for Black Mask.
But he's not.
Enough,
he's not.
I feel like he would
actually would.
But he's not.
Interestingly enough.
I still don't want to see him in it, but I will say he's probably a better first choice in my head than Ewan McGregor, because I just hear that and I just don't see it.
I'm with you, and I love him.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I think I see Ewan McGregor and what's it called, and I think Obi-Wan. I think
Well, that's fair.
The Island. I think a lot of movies that I really enjoy. I even think fucking Moulin Rouge, and I just think Ewan McGregor is such a well-rounded actor that I think what's it called, he'll fit the role. And I want to see him do something sinister. I don't think I can think of anything where he's been evil or a bad guy.
I was thinking, I've never seen him in anything where he's unhinged like this.
And that's the thing. It's Black Mask is a psychopath. He is almost as crazy as the Joker. I just don't see that.
That's why I'm more along the lines with Sai, where I'm I don't see this.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to see him do it, and I would love to see him unhinged. He hasn't done anything remotely close to that visually. I don't know if he could pull it off the way I would like to see it pulled off, because Black Mask is one of my favorite. I'm a huge Batman fan, so Black Mask is one of my all-time favorite villains. It has to be a sense of Heath Ledger's Joker for me to enjoy Black Mask. And I'm already on the fence about Birds of Prey and not really wanting DC to make it. So that would be the only real reason he would probably get me in the theaters is if I'm just going to see someone psycho out as Black Mask.
I'm with you.
I mean, and I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, hopefully, because he has had some kind of funk. I don't know if you guys ever watched The Island.
Mm-mm.
It's so in this one, he's basically a clone, and he's a rich guy that makes a clone, and they basically raise clones in this facility. So if you ever need an organ or something, they'll take it away from your clone. Well, his clone escapes and meets the actual rich version of himself, and he does have a little evil side to him, but it's nowhere near psychotic like it would be for Black Mask. But I'm hoping, and like I said, I like Ewan McGregor, so hopefully he does it well.
Yeah, I'm more with Daniel on this. I think even though we haven't seen him in anything like this, I think he's demonstrated over his career that he's a more than capable actor that can command a role and a presence and everything. And I feel if he decided to take this role, then it's probably obviously it's intentional, but probably he was up for the challenge. He's you know what, I want to do something different. I think I can do this. Also, I mean, he's diving into this kind of world because he's going to be playing the adult Danny Torrance in the Shining sequel. So he's expanding. He's getting out into these kind of roles. I don't know which ones he'll do first, which movie will come out first, but maybe he was just you know what, I'm already going to be in this kind of state of mind. I might as well just double down
people. Any other
and
crazy
just
roles?
Get them all out at once. So
I mean, look what happened to Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think I'm just more along the lines with I think part of what it is it has nothing to do with him so much and his capabilities as an actor. I think it's just, first, I'm not excited, on board, understanding why we're getting a Birds of Prey movie. And I think I would have been more excited or more all right, maybe. I was when we first announced Black Mask can be the villain. I was okay, I still don't know why the hell we're getting this, but okay. And if they would have picked somebody maybe just more well-known for this, maybe then my interest would have gone up a little bit more. But right now, my interest isn't so much in Birds of Prey as it is in what's he going to be like. And that's just...
Right.
That just speaks to my overall disappointment of...
DC films?
You know? Yeah, right.
We don't gotta go down that hole.
No, we're not.
Yeah, no, we're not.
It's not me doubting that he'd do a good job, or I don't think he'd do well. I'm sure he'll do fine. that is one thing that they've done well is they've done good casting. So I'm sure he'll be great in his role, and I do like him. It's just
yeah, it's the inherent problem of what they're doing to the DC movies in general.
Yeah, but we're not doing that because we'll be here.
Yeah.
We'll have to hear your thoughts on it at some point because we haven't talked about that with you yet. But yeah, we'll save that for a time where we're not like trying to stay brief and everything. Yeah. Next story we have is we got an Instagram announcement from Will Smith and Martin Lawrence that Bad Boys 3 is Bad Boys 3 is set to hit theaters in January of 2020. So the way I feel about it is two things real quick. One, believe it when I see it, like when they actually start production, I'll be like, okay, it's actually happening because this has come up a lot
so long,
and hasn't actually happened. And then two, the January thing makes me suspicious. Like I guess it's a little bit different if they already have it planned now for January. But usually when studios put something out in January, they are dumping it off because January is the month where they know people don't see movies because they just spend a whole bunch of money on Christmas and then also potentially seeing a big movie in December. And so they just kind of drop it off in January, hoping people forget about it, and it just kind of fades away quickly. So it makes me a little bit weird because I feel like I've never heard of a movie being announced with like fanfare coming out in January. That just seems weird to me.
At least like years in advance. Normally, it's like December 1st. They're like coming in a month.
Yeah, when you see the trailer for the first time and it's out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
something like that, or something pushed back to January.
On a very quick side note that we'll go right back is his Will Smith's Instagram, hilarious. I follow him on Instagram. There's the stuff he posts, forever funny.
Oh yeah, Will Smith easily has the best Instagram in the world.
I'll have to follow. I've seen a couple of random things that he puts out, but yeah, I'll have to add them.
Super, super funny.
I don't know. For someone who just got Instagram literally this year, it is amazing how he's perfected the use of Instagram.
Yeah. It's hilarious. But going back to Bad Boys 3, I mean, I love Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. I think that's when I was growing up. I was like in high school, middle school. That's when like the Shaky Tail Feather song came out and everything. So I was like watching that shit. I was like, ooh, this is my shit. But I don't know. If it's gonna do it, it's probably gonna go back to, or like you said, the January release date's kind of sketchy. Are they like Will Smith, great actor, Martin Lawrence, hilarious. So I mean, if they're just gonna base it up with them two still in it, then it's probably just gonna be another like shoot 'em up, funny, talking shit to each other kind of deal. Yeah. And I mean, you can't really do it wrong. They've done it twice, and they're both good. So it's like you're gonna go in there expecting to see what you already know. What it is. Like you're going in to see the movie because you know what it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
My thoughts on it, as far as like the reason why I do think it's actually going to happen, is the past times it's kind of been talked about happening, neither Will Smith or Martin Lawrence has really said, I'm on board with it. This is the first time both of them have said, we're going to go ahead and do it. And the first time they've come together and said, hey, this is happening. It's been rumored for months at this point. We've had a couple of months ago, it was announced that production would probably start around January, February. So again, the January release of 2020 makes sense. Apparently the script is already done because, again, they've been trying to get this movie done for probably 5 to 10 years. So yeah, I'm interested in it. I love the previous two, but I do really, really hope this happens. If this doesn't happen, I might shed a thug tear just a little bit because I love Bad Boys.
Kelsey, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, nothing more than what you guys have already said. So
yeah,
that's fair. Yeah. Okay, so the next topic we have is a bit broad, and Sai will probably rant to some extent about it. But basically, what's going on is within like these past couple weeks, even we've heard at least like 3 anime adaptations that Hollywood is trying to tackle,
like live action ones.
Yeah, live action. And it just kind of points out how many there have been and continue to be in the last, I guess, probably few years and going forward.
And how bad.
And how terrible they generally end up being. So it's very interesting time right now because, for one, I give Hollywood credit for recognizing that there's some pretty amazing stories out there and that they deserve to be like seen and like for more people to know about them and see them. I give them credit for that, but I take all of it back with how they choose to interpret and present these stories. So it's a delicate topic. There's multiple layers to kind of approach it by. I'm inclined to say, should we just let Cy rant and get through that, or does anybody else have anything where they'd like to go first? Or
I mean, the only thing that I'd say about the anime adaptations, and I'll leave it at it because I feel like that's the primary issue with anime being adapted into a live action movie, is animes tend to be over the top, tend to be like what's called these crazy things that happen, and not to go that far, Full Metal Alchemist, the transmuting, the chimeras, and all that stuff. Like, I would be more okay with us doing adaptations in like the CG version of, or like in the CG manner or something along those lines, just because you can create those things easier and make it look better. But when you're going into like live action and you have like Edward Alwork with his red cloak and his and his spear that he makes and stuff, and you're transmuting, now everything starts looking funky when he's fighting chimeras, and it's just like it just becomes too much to do in a live action movie. I don't know. That's just my feeling about it, because I see like a lot of anime have a whole bunch of different elements to them and everything, and there's like so much depth within each one that even just putting it in an hour. Another thing is putting it into like an hour and a half movie of a series that was 100 episodes, 150 episodes. It's like it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Dude, Sai, do you want to jump?
He's over there rubbing his head.
Do you want to wait? Do you want to wait and let Kelsey get her thoughts out, and then you just kind of usher in the next level of the conversation?
I'll go last.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I was gonna say was I give them no credit because it has nothing to do with finding good stories, because we're making Gladiator 2 sequels, like using the same people, right? So it has nothing to do with appreciating things. It just has to do with like, where can we make money? Which is why we're continually getting horrible adaptations, because nobody cares.
Hold on one second. So the people cutting the checks always basically have that in mind, pretty much. But there are some creators out there that do really potentially love the material and would love to see it adapted, but then we just get into the situation where people's hands get tied by said companies potentially. All I'm saying, there are people out there.
There's creators who just see like, hey, something's popular. Let's see if I can make money off of this.
True,
we get an Avatar situation.
Damn it, she beat me right to it.
Like those are the two like biggest. I've seen I know a lot of people for like the Dragon Ball ones are really bad.
You still gotta see it just to see how.
I've seen some of them. I just haven't seen.
Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm just.
Oh my god!
Don't watch it. Don't.
She has to.
No, she does not.
Like,
if you want to literally want to take out a gun and put a bullet through your head by the end of the movie, don't go watch it. I'm sorry.
No, I have no interest. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't seen the whole thing all the way.
I watched Avatar. You gotta watch that.
We watched Avatar after I showed you the entire thing.
And since I watched it, I had to then see how horribly messed up it was.
He's like my friend, and I don't know if you guys know the movie The Room.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like all my friends are like, you need to watch this movie. It's fucking horrible, but you need to watch it. And I go and watch it, and it was the biggest waste of 2 hours of my life. Oh man, I was so mad.
It's entertaining though, in how terrible it is. It's entertaining.
I'm getting us back on track right now. Anyway, all I was saying was, I just think it's utter crap. Please, Sai, go.
All right, so there are 2 anime adaptations that I'm going to talk about here that I just don't want to see. Or I shouldn't say I don't want to see, because I actually do want to see them. I just don't trust Hollywood's going to do them correctly. The first one is Attack on Titan. That one, I will admit, I think it's being directed by the guy who did The Nun. And I will say...
Sorry, It.
I'm sorry. You're right. It is It.
That's a lot better. A lot better.
I will say Attack on Titan does have some horror elements to it that if you're gonna do a live action, horror definitely has to be a part of it. So that is kind of out of the 2 that I'm gonna talk about. That's the one I'm like, all right, this one might do okay, but I still don't think it will. And then the second one is My Hero Academia, and oh my goodness, I just have a couple of rules for this live action. Adam, like what they're gonna do with it. Please, I swear to God, the only white person that should be in this goddamn movie is All Might. And you don't even have to like have him be white. Like it's not detrimental that he's white. But out of all the characters, if you decide to go with a white actor for him, he's the one I'll be least pissed about. Secondly, I swear to God, because it's been joked about on Twitter, and if some director sees this and thinks it's a good idea, do not cast the fucking Rock as All Might. Do not.
Please, do it.
Do
please.
not cast the Rock as All Might.
Bro, the Rock is ripped.
I don't give a shit if he's ripped. He's not the only ripped guy in Hollywood.
But he's the best ripped guy in Hollywood.
He is not. He is 100% not the best ripped guy in Hollywood.
What about him makes you? Because I was going to let you know. I've started watching the series. I'm not too far into it yet, but he's pretty prominent in these early episodes. And I'm just trying to think now. I know is it just your stance on the Rock in general?
No, I think
in there.
It's like, what's it called? The Rock has that smile, that smile that fits like the All Might smile, because All Might's always smiling. And you look at like the Rock, and that dude's always fucking laughing, and like when he does those scenes where he's a funny dude. And what's it called? And I think he would. Clearly, we have somebody who doesn't like The Rock. I mean, I like The Rock. I even watched the movie with where he's a fucking tooth fairy. I'll give you that much. But I don't know. I just thought it would be hilarious to see him in a fucking blonde wig and just like fucking people up. I don't know. To me, it just seems like it would be awesome. But I mean, because that's what My Hero Academia, like. If it's not going to be good. And if it's not going to be good, amuse me with something. And if you're going to amuse me with something, amuse me with The Rock being All Might.
Sai?
I have nothing to say.
But for real though, is it more in your like you're not the hugest fan of The Rock, or what is it specifically about All Might makes you be like no to The Rock?
I just don't like the idea of The Rock in a blonde wig. Like, that's really the biggest thing there is just in my head, and especially how All Might's hair is. Can you imagine The Rock with, like, that M kind of, like, in the front of his head with the blonde in the back? It just doesn't visually sit with me. That, and I'm also kind of tired of The Rock being casted in every goddamn thing. I need a break from The Rock. And here's the thing. It's not that I don't like The Rock. I'm a huge Rock fan. I just need a break. And I don't think he doesn't really have the All Might look for me. I get the smile, but other than that, I don't get it. And then also, just when like All Might loses his powers and he kind of shrinks down, I don't really want to see The Rock as like a 100-pound dude walking around. I just don't want to see that. So there's multiple layers as to why I don't want The Rock to be cast.
And they did it with Chris Evans.
I still don't.
Captain America.
I still don't.
Cap is nowhere near the size of The Rock. First off, like Cap is like probably half his size. The Rock is a giant ass.
And All Might
and so is All Might.
And All Might isn't. So it's different. Considering how big All Might and The Rock is, for them to then shrink him down to a 100-pound dude.
And to be fair, I don't think anybody is going to be able to pull off that wig in general, that hair in general. I don't give a fuck who you are. You put that hairstyle on somebody, they're all going to look goofy as fuck.
Yeah, this is the thing about anime adaptations, because I've talked to Sai about this. Like, you know, one of my dream things to accomplish would be to do a live action adaptation of Dragon Ball Z, and obviously do it well and right. And honestly, one of the most important and like potentially hardest things that you'd have to do is how to get Goku's freaking hair right for it to get, because you got to do it right, and it can't just be normal person's hair just grown out and then like. Dude, I don't know how exactly.
Well, I mean, you could say that
right.
for like all the Saiyans, because the same thing could be said for Vegeta too.
Yeah, and that's my point.
And also, like, Trunks has got a freaking purple bowl cut, so that's gonna look ridiculous on people.
Trunks is my boy.
It's actually more of like an undercut.
But do you get what I'm saying? Like the
front
thing, like that's
down
gonna,
the middle. Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna look funky on anybody.
I got you.
I will say, as far as adapting animes, I think instead of like adapting a saga, I don't get why people don't just adapt an already movie, because like Daniel mentioned, it's kind of hard to condense something that's 100 episodes or like hours and hours of a show into 90 minutes, when you can just take kind of like Dragon Ball Z and the Broly saga, which is already 90 minutes, and just make that a live action. Don't get me wrong, there are still parts of it that are really, really difficult, but at least you're not trying to condense, 10 hours of a story into 90 minutes, right. Whereas the creator of the show has already created a 90-minute story, and you can just adapt that. I don't get why people in Hollywood don't do that instead of trying to adapt these sagas and trying to condense, because you can't condense. Can you imagine trying to watch the Cell Saga in 90 minutes? It just doesn't work. Like it doesn't. You don't.
Advocate with like Dragon Ball Z, and probably like Naruto would be probably another one you could reference. Maybe even One Piece. I haven't really seen One Piece, but I just know how long it is.
What's the time?
There are some things that you can take away from that aren't.
See, that's where you and I disagree. I disagree with that. Because there's so much depth, there's so much, you get so much backstory, and so it makes you understand why the character's doing what they're doing, and it just gives you it gives you a relatable reason to feel for the characters, and that's why they do all those, like, the flashbacks, or something that happened in their childhood, or even something that happened 40 episodes before that you might have forgotten about, and then it reminds you, and you're like, shit. That's why he's so pissed off about something.
But also,
and even if you want to take out filler episodes as far as adapting it, that's fine. You can take out the filler episodes, but there's still like 7 hours of content that you're trying to condense into 90 minutes.
I got you, but you also have to consider some of these things are taking place where there's it's over the course of like a single battle, or even if you were trying to do it justice and everything like that, even if you're going to do a live action television show, you just aren't and flat out can't afford to shoot a battle for as long as it's actually drawn. So that's what I'm saying. There are areas in which you can trim things down and not do an injustice to the source material. There are ways that you most definitely can make an error, but there are ways where there's a compromise level potentially.
You know who's done that? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the reason why you can't do that is because of these stories. There's so many fans, and what's important to me and what I, wouldn't mind being taken out, to somebody else, they don't want to see that removed. So you're stuck in a dilemma of what is okay to be taken out and what are some fans going to be okay with compared to someone else. You're really stuck in that dilemma where if you take something out that you may look at as not important, doesn't mean it's not important to someone else. So that's where adapting these stories really becomes complicated.
That's the choice you make as a filmmaker. You're trusting your gut to make something, and like the best thing you can do is then, like, you know, before and after the film comes out, talk about your decisions and try to, like, you know, make sure people can kind of understand where your head was at with it when it's something that's so beloved and like passionate about that. But at the end of the day, you're at where you're at in your career because you've demonstrated an ability to tell stories and to craft them well. And so you just gotta, at the end of the day, you just gotta trust your gut and roll with it however it goes.
Yeah, anime fans aren't that forgiving.
Well, I got you, but I'm just saying.
And
like,
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just saying the fan base is different compared to other fan bases where it creates a major problem when you're going to decide what to take out.
I mean, I think it's not necessarily limited to anime. I think it's that way with any
Comic
popular
books.
series. Yeah, I would say comic books. Harry Potter, Star Wars. Like, I think it's just, I'm sorry, do you think your name's Star Wars?
1 second. We said Star Wars, and my dog was asleep next to me, and just suddenly went...
Yeah, like she thinks her name's Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's not even close. It doesn't even sound like that. Anyway, so I think it's just anything that's like a potential series or trilogy, or if it's have source material outside of film, really, then there's like a huge fan base for that, but that doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah,
so people are always going to be pissed off is what I'm saying. Like, no matter what's being adapted, somebody's always going to have an issue with it.
Yeah, but nerds are the angriest and loudest.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. I'm one of those people. I get really off when, like, the comic book things don't go as good as I want them to be because I'm like, well, did nobody read anything? Pisses me off. The same thing with Harry Potter. Same thing with Star Wars. Like, I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah, there's the thing about it is, while this community is as passionate, is as loud, and while it is a considerable amount of people out there, it's not as much as the population of America and the world, right. Which is when every time you're making these things, you're doing that with that in mind. You are trying to please as many people as possible. And do you hope the people that love this stuff the most love it too? Hell yeah.
Please me first. Please me first.
But in a situation where the people that love it the most are like, you know what, it was fine. It's not bad. But the majority of people that, like, maybe this is the first notice of it they've ever had was like, wow, I've never seen anything like that. That was great. They're going to be fine with that. They're going to be fine with that return. But you also, like, you have the chance to do something better next time, you know, take the notes and everything like that. But, yeah, that's just...
I mean, yeah, it just comes down to somebody's always going to be pissed off. So that doesn't excuse what they've done so far. Because let's be real, everything they've done has been utter crap.
It just, like, a lot of it goes far with just, like, if you can tell the genuine effort was there. Like, you might not like the decision. That's how I feel like with these DC, like, with
I was going to say, that's how I'm going to feel with Aquaman.
And, like,
if I can feel that the general effort is there, that they try to get my guy right, I'm not going to be pissed off. But if I feel disrespected and, like, my favorite character, I'm going to lose my chance.
And
I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, I can. So, like, with these movies a lot so far, like, with Batman and Superman in particular, you can tell that was crafted with, like, some real, like, passion and everything behind it. You might not have liked what they had to do, the story they told, but you can tell that it wasn't just cashed in. Together. Like, this wasn't just, like, you know,
like Suicide Squad.
Exactly.
There it is.
All right, so this is my last thought on it, and then I'm just gonna drop it. If Hollywood wants people to, like, experience these great stories that they feel like, you know, they're popular overseas and they're popular with nerds, why not invest in promoting services like Crunchyroll and Funimation more so to the population instead of taking these stories and basically effing them up? Like, that's my thing. Is like, why not, you know, as many commercials that we see on TV about Netflix and Hulu, and considering as many adaptations have been announced for anime recently, why not also put that money into showing people the original content as opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to show you my version of the original content, but you don't really get to, we're not going to tell you where to find the original source material. That's my last thought.
I feel like that comes from the stigma that is anime. People who don't watch anime, don't enjoy anime, look at it as little kid cartoons, or look at it as, like, what's called, like, weird creeper cartoons because of, like, some of the content, like, that the Japanese do, like some of the way their anime sounds, or, like, the shit that happens in it. and a lot of like people look at it and be like, oh, you guys are fucking weird for enjoying watching that, like that kind of thing. And I feel like that's where it has our, especially here in the States. Like, yeah, we're nerds. We watch it, but I know a lot of nerds that think anime is fucking weird or anything along those lines.
And so do I, and those are the people who, when they hear that it's getting a live action, they still don't even go see it because they're not interested in they know about the original source material, they know where to go find it, and they're just not interested. But when there are those people who have never heard about it and they like just see a trailer and they're like, oh, this looks interesting, why not promote where they could actually go find, like the same way we can tell people, hey, you like the Harry Potter movies, why don't you go read the books? The same thing doesn't happen for anime. And I understand there is a stigma for it. I totally get that. But the people who have that stigma and know about it and dislike it, those typically aren't the ones that are still going to even go see the live action to begin with because they already have that dislike for it.
Well, yes. The only thing I think about it is like a 40-year-old. Let's say we're just gonna toss out a 40-year-old who you start promoting Crunchyroll and everything, or Funimation or something along those lines, and he sees the commercial of a cartoon, and we'll say it's dubbed because most of Funimation and they're all subtitled, they're all sub. But let's say it's dubbed, they're gonna look at it and like, oh, that's for little kids, or that's for like, it's like unless you already enjoy that's like cartoons and like anime and things like that. Now, if you have on the other side, if you have like a 40-year-old dude and you're showing him a live action version of some dude with a fucking spear fucking up some robots or something, he'll be like, okay, that's like fucking iRobot or fucking Blade Runner or something like that, and they'll go and watch it. Why? Because they don't find it to be juvenile or it's not a cartoon, or they don't have to read subtitles or something along those lines. That's what I think. That's just my opinion on that as to why they probably don't promote anime as much as we would like. Because I personally would love it for more people to watch it, because that just means more seasons of more shit.
I think to me, Sai, it just comes down to money. Like they're just not gonna really take much time to promote to promote content that they don't own themselves. Like they're constantly making things like, well, I think it's Legendary that's potentially producing My Hero Academia. Legendary is not a super huge studio, but it's constantly like either searching for what it's going to be producing in pre-production of what's going to be coming out, or working on post. Like it's constantly working on its own content. It's like never going to like take the time to be like, yeah, let's take a moment to promote something that we didn't spend time creating in any way, when we can just show you and promote what we are making, because they got to get their money back for all this stuff.
But
I think it's just simply like, more often than not, any question like this, I feel like it's going to come to what makes more sense for a company financially, and they're just not going to like spend money to advertise something that they're going to have to share money with at best.
That's fine. That was my last thought. I'm not gonna continue to rant about anime adaptations.
I got you. That was a good conversation, though. I mean, we didn't really stick with our like being quick about that topic.
Well,
but
that topic was never going to be quick.
Yeah. That one wasn't going to be quick.
It was good conversation. It was good talk.
Yeah.
Discussion and everything like that. But we'll move right along with something that seems like kind of going along with the previous topic. People aren't necessarily digging. Is The Witcher went ahead and gave us our first look at Henry Cavill as it's Geralt, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Geralt, yeah.
From their upcoming series. Yeah, a lot of people don't like the look.
Did you guys all play the game?
No, I haven't. I was gonna say, I think the majority of the people not liking the look also are coming from the perspective of playing the games. And I didn't even know until like last week that there's a book series that the games are based off of. Yep. And from everything I'm seeing, the showrunners is indicating they're going based off the books,
not the game.
They hope the people that play the games will tune in and enjoy it, but they're inspiration source is the books.
I appreciate
And so
that.
his look in this show may very well reflect more in the description of the books, at least in the time frame that they're working on initially,
Yeah.
than the look,
game.
the more rugged kind of look that they created for a game character.
Perfect. That's all I need. Explanation.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? I think he looks fine. Like, I played the games. I found out about the books a while ago, but I'm gonna end up reading a couple of them at least just before the series actually comes out. But the only thing is, it's not even the only thing. It's like Henry Cavill. He can give you the rugged look. He can give you the clean shaven look. I mean, the wig's gonna look silly on anybody that wears it. It's a wig. So, I mean, I'm okay with it, and they're going off the original source material. I'm definitely going to watch it, and I'll probably enjoy it just like I enjoyed Castlevania, which has no source material, so I'm all right with it.
I think he looks like a jacked elf from Lord of the Rings.
He's definitely going to look like a jack.
That's honestly the thing. When he walked out, I was like, that's an elf. A huge one.
It's a jacked-ass elf.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, I don't like the look. It has nothing to do with it not looking like the game. I get that they're going off the books. I just don't. Again, it's the wig. And Daniel makes a good point. I don't know who you could put in that wig, and I would look at it and be like, okay, that looks great. But I just don't like the look. It doesn't mean that I think the story, like the show's going to be bad. It doesn't diminish my interest or anything like that. Just from what I saw, I don't like the look. That's all I can go off of.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I would say I don't mind it. I would say he doesn't look like a badass right now. I don't know how much of a badass at this point in his life he should be or whatever. But I just remember thinking, like, when I saw like that Boss Logic like mock-up of Henry, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty sick. So, I mean, me personally, I do hope, because Henry can grow a solid beard, I hope we see him that kind of bearded look sooner than later, because that looks pretty badass. So,
yep.
Yeah,
that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Nothing about the source material. It's purely based on facial hair and a long white wig. I think the beard with it takes it up a notch and doesn't make him look like just like a really
big
jacked elf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move right along. But I think with this next topic, we'll have even less to say.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know that a Game of Thrones prequel, I cannot talk tonight, is planned and coming, and momentum has built as they've already been able to cast one of the leads for this new show, and it's Naomi Watts. So they're going to be able to get some big names from the jump on this
Naomi
one.
Watts?
Naomi Watts. What I think of her every time is she's the like main character in the Peter
King Kong,
and from like 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's it called?
Get her confused with the person that plays Pepper Potts or whatever her name is.
Oh, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Paltrow. I mix them up. I don't know why, but I do.
There's some similarity.
Yeah, but she's 50 years old.
Naomi?
No, yeah, Naomi Watts is 50 years old. Who is she playing?
Oh, well, that's just, we have no idea, I feel like, at this point.
I hope she's like playing somebody's mom.
I think she's potentially playing. I saw something about like she could be a what is opposite of a descendant, ancestor, like a Lannister ancestor. I think I saw something about that.
I have no problem with her. She's gonna be a badass. It's gonna be great. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think she's necessarily gonna be like a warrior per se, but she could be one of those. Yeah, like
she's
you
gonna
could
be like a reigning badass,
yeah, you
and I am totally fine with
like
that.
a Cersei.
That's great.
I was saying, yeah, you could be a cutthroat
like a
ruler.
Yeah,
you could
blow
70,
up. What's called Game of Thrones spoilers? What's called blowing up? Oh wait, are you guys all caught up?
We are not remotely.
Okay, well then
I don't think it matters. Do you care if we spoiler alert to anybody like watching or listening?
Where she fucking blows up the whole church. 50-year-old woman just fuck you guys, blows it up and just kills like whole lineage of a whole family in the church is just wiped out of the whole world. So it's like, well, there goes that bloodline. Bye.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care how old she is. She can be 70, and I'd be like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, she just probably won't be like a warrior.
Yeah, like
right.
it's a warrior goddess.
That's why I asked who she playing, because I wasn't sure who exactly she was playing.
Yeah, I don't think it's announced yet.
Yeah.
I
mean,
yeah, the only other thing that's been announced for it is the title, and it's going to be called A Long Night. Other than that, we don't really know much about it, so I am excited for it. I am officially all caught up on Game of Thrones. I'm really excited about that.
buddy.
It took me like a month to do it, but I did it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty happy. I finished like right before King of the Hill got announced for Hulu, so like I didn't really like stop to watch that and mess that up. But yeah, at this point it's early. There's not really much to talk about the Game of Thrones prequel.
Yeah.
Real quick, were you saying that the title of this title so it'll be Game of Thrones : A Long Night? Or is it just going to be called A Long Night?
I think it's just going to be called A Long Night. They didn't really say.
I was going to say, I don't know if I like that as a title.
I like that.
Because again,
is it night with an N or a K? Like, are they doing like a play on words?
Well, I think it's going to be a long night because of what the White. It looks like they're going to base it off the original time the White Walkers popped out.
Right.
So it would be NIGHT at that point. But I mean, I get why they aren't calling it Game of Thrones, but I don't know. I feel like you kind of need it there because that's kind of what it. That's kind of what it is. Whether it's from the Game of Thrones, because in Westeros, Bravos, the Game of Thrones is always going to be there. It's not like, oh, the Game of Thrones didn't happen until 100 years later. No, that the game of politics is always there. So it's always a Game of Thrones.
But I don't think they need the title there. It could still be... Because really the title would only serve a purpose to the audience, right? Like, that's the point. And the people who love Game of Thrones are first going to know that they're together. And people who don't love Game of Thrones might actually go see it or watch it or do something like, oh, what's this? A Long Night? That sounds interesting. And then maybe they'll get onto Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? So even though it's like inherent in the nature of the plot line and the story, the title just kind of serves the audience anyway, right? So
I feel like they'll advertise the connection pretty soon.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't, I don't think it matters. I like that it's separate because then it also is distinct. And then you don't have somebody, like my dad is a huge Game of Thrones fan. But I don't think the man's going to pay attention. So if it's called Game of Thrones or something like Game of Thrones: A Long Night, he's going to think it's going to come after. Until he's there and he's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, he's not great with continuity.
Gosh,
So when we went to, he and my brother-in-law Wyatt, they went to go see Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
And he thought that Rogue One was chronologically taking place after episode 7.
Oh, so, gosh.
Forrest Whitaker's character was an older version of Finn. And he thought Poe was the same as the Hispanic actor, I can't remember his name, in Rogue One, but with the thick accent. He thought they were the same guy, and then he thought Rey was the same as Jin.
Yeah.
So it's just like...
So he's sitting here and he was like, how is this guy still alive and how's the girl still look like a lot better? Because he seems like, wow, that guy aged really poorly. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We've never done this before. Anyway. So I'm saying I think it's smart that they're separating it out because people like my father, huge Game of Thrones fan, loves it. He's an avid fan. However, if it's called Game of Thrones: A Long Night, he will think it's the next thing. Because and it doesn't matter how many times we'll tell him, no, it's not. It's going to be called Game of Thrones: Long Night. He will think it's that way. He's a wonderful man, but he does not pay attention.
He watches episodes like 3 or 4 times before, because he gets up and moves constantly. So he'll have to just restart over and over again.
That would drive me insane.
You get used to
everybody
it. Growing up, there's no fighting.
So all you do is, like, if it's something that you're invested in, you just say, you know what, you mind we watch something else. And then, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, he
Put
doesn't
something
care.
else,
I mean,
yeah.
he's willing to do whatever. It's
Because
just
he'll put it on another time, anyways.
yeah, it don't matter. It doesn't phase him. He rewatches it now or in 4 hours. He does not. So like I said,
Funny.
he's fantastic, but he's a disaster. Anyway, so I'm smart that they're not calling it Game of Thrones because that does put a little separation, but it's still clearly going to be a part of the same universe, and people are going to know that. So I don't think it matters. But that wasn't even the issue. Next.
No. All right. Last story is one of my personal favorite H.G. Wells works is being reimagined for I'm guessing a modern context, but led by once again the director of It, Andy Muschietti, is going to be reimagining The Time Machine. So I'm pretty interested in that one because like I said, I always enjoyed that one. It seems lending itself to be. I didn't phrase that well. It's got a very cinematic storyline and everything like that. And the last attempt at it was not great. So
I don't know. I think that's one of my guilty pleasure movies.
Oh yeah, you like that one with
the Paul Walker?
Paul Walker?
Yeah.
Is he in that? I thought it was
or am I thinking a different movie? I think I might be thinking Timeline, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Timeline.
Time Machine.
Yeah, sorry, I got them mixed up. Timeline.
Okay.
You're looking it up now.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So, yeah, thoughts? Anybody?
I mean, I've actually never read The Time Machine, so I'm not too familiar with it. What's it called? I'll probably go back and read it because I do like the author in general, but I don't really have too much to say on it. It's The Time Machine. Like,
it's about a guy who time travels. In case you know.
It's like I don't.
Yeah, I haven't read the books either, or the book. There's only one, I think. So I'll definitely go back and read it before the film comes out because I'm a big, huge geek at doing that. If I haven't read the book,
God, you're my guy.
But yeah, I really don't have much to say because I just don't know much about the story and what to expect.
Right.
But again, yeah, I mean, there's so many stories. I mean, is it like Back to the Future or what's going on? I don't know. I have to read the book and find out.
This guy travels, I think 100,000 years into the future, and the human race is evolved into two separate races, where it's the Eloi that are kind of not simple-minded, but just very a simple society, very kind and just a peaceful kind of race. And then there's this kind of almost ape-like.
There's a Futurama episode about that.
That live underground and feed on the Eloi.
On the peaceful ones.
There's a Futurama episode that's kind of like that. So okay.
There is. I've seen that one.
Yeah, so definitely haven't seen that. And you know what? I always like myself a good sci-fi time traveling movie. That's why I like that movie Timeline. I don't know if you guys have seen it. You can probably check it out. It's probably really corny compared to what I remember, but I mean, it's definitely something that piques my interest. So I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'll probably watch the old one. Which one did you say was?
I think there's versions of it over the years, but the most recent one was in 2002.
I'm gonna have to watch that one. And then was it bad? It was bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
Oh, I just looked it up right now. I remember that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of H.G. Wells adaptations haven't been great.
What else?
There's also an Island of Dr. Moreau that actually has a lot of talent in that one.
That's just
but
funny.
Yeah, it's
sometimes people just don't know how to take books and make them movies, so that's honestly my biggest issue. Anyway, I crack myself up. I'm so funny. Yeah, I think that's it.
So did we have any other notes? Not necessarily on that, but anything we missed that we felt like we should bring up or anything like that?
Nope.
All right, then I think that'll do it for this. I know Sai is fading on us.
Son needs to go to
this installment, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Feel free to chime in, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any social media. The other Spotify, Apple. We're growing. We're growing, everybody. We're at a bunch of different places. But my point is, contact us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear us cover. And, we'd love to interact with you in that. Signing off, I'm Charles once again. Kelsey right here with me.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.
And that was slightly late. I didn't know if you're going to do anything. Not the cutaway. But yeah, and Daniel with us as well.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, until next time, everybody.